This is Les Donovan at Do-It-Yourself Home Improvement Plus. At Do-It-Yourself Home Improvement Plus, we do a lot of projects in the woodworking shop, particularly during the winter months when we don't want to go outside in the wind and the cold. In the woodworking shop, we make many different projects. This is a jewelry box that we made several of this year. In addition to that, we make blanket chests, we make dressers, we make end tables, we make coffee tables. Nearly all these projects we dye with a water-based dye as opposed to using a petroleum-based or an oil-based stain. We prefer the dye because it's much easier to work with. Dye can be purchased at nearly any woodworking shop, and it comes in the form of 1-ounce packets, either in a plastic container such as this here or an envelope type container. To make the dye, we mix the powder into 1 quart of water, which gives us a very generous amount of dye to work with. A 1-ounce container of dye of any color costs approximately $6.50. That's a lot cheaper than buying an oil-based stain, such as this stain here. This container of stain costs approximately $16. To apply the water-based dye, we use the same method as we do using an oil-based stain. We can either use a brush or we can use a paper towel or a sponge. We simply paint the wood just like you would do any other kind of paint project, getting a thorough coat. Once it dries a few minutes, we can wipe it off, or we can leave it just as it was and let it dry to the touch. The only drawback to using a water-based dye is that as it dries, it raises the grain on the wood. So that has to be sanded off. But we don't recommend using sandpaper. We recommend using steel wool and simply wipe it down till it's smooth and the grain is no longer present to the feel or the touch. After we get done that process, we apply our finish coat. The finish coat can either be oil, such as Tungsten oil, or shellac, either sprayed or painted on, or lacquer, which is either sprayed or painted on, or a polyurethane varnish. We prefer to use a polyurethane varnish because it's extremely hard and durable and will last for decades. We simply take the varnish and we paint the finished product with the varnish and let it dry. After it's dry, we buff out the surface again with steel wool. We apply this process of applying the varnish at least twice, sometimes 3 times. And in between each of the applications, we buff it out with the steel wool. After we get that whole process done, we apply 2 coats of paste wax. Between the coats, we buff it out to a high sheen. When you get done, you'll have a product that looks similar to this here. As you see, you can see the grain through the dye. If this was finished with an oil-based stain, you would not be able to see the grain of the wood as clearly as you can by using a water-based stain. That's all there is to using a water-based dye. We prefer to use water-based dyes almost exclusively with all of our furniture projects. As you see, they come out quite beautiful and they'll last for years. For more information on Do-It-Yourself Home Improvement Project, take a look at our website at Do-It-Yourself Home Improvement Plus.